ghost army. A train full of gold. Ships and submarines with untold riches. Lost machinery. And even corpses without limbs. In this new military history video, we will tell you all about the most shocking discoveries of World War II. On June 6, 1944, the Allied armies landed in Normandy, once again taking the war against the Nazis to Western Europe. Germany was in trouble, having to face not only these forces, but also the Soviets in the east. But even in this serious situation, the Germans continued to put up tough battles. The American and British advances through occupied French territory were slow and brutal, with tens of thousands of deaths in each confrontation. That was why the Allied command began to consider alternative methods that would give them some kind of advantage over their enemies. One of the most curious was the creation of the so-called Ghost Army. These were two units that, unlike most of the corps fighting in Europe, their main objective was not to kill the Nazis, but only to distract them. These divisions were the 23rd Special Troops Headquarters and the 31st 33rd Special Signal Company. Their members barely exceeded 1,000 people and were mostly artists, sound engineers, and designers, among others. Their mission was to deceive the Germans, with the aim of making them believe that the Allied armies in France were much larger than they really were. While the American forces advanced facing the Germans, the Ghost Army put on its show. Using megaphones with pre-recorded sounds, lights, and unmanned vehicles, they made the Nazis believe that the attacks would come from a different place than planned. In this way, when the Allies opted for offensive tactics, they took the German forces by surprise.
Their last operation in the final weeks of the war, a crucial battle in Germany with thousands of lives at stake, using every last trick they had.
We were sitting on the other side of the Rhine from the Germans, waving at the Germans and saying, "Hey, here I am, shoot at me."
It worked.
The real fighting force was here, 10 miles north. 30,000 American soldiers storming across the Rhine River and meeting almost no resistance.
It is estimated that, thanks to all these diversionary movements that acted as a decoy, the lives of approximately 30,000 Allied soldiers were saved. The history of this Ghost Army remained hidden until only a few years ago, when its fundamental role in the liberation of Europe from the Nazi clutches was revealed. In 1940, Adolf Hitler ordered the construction of a military headquarters in northern Poland, with a view to the upcoming invasion of the Soviet Union. The Wolf's Lair, so intimidatingly called, was an impenetrable base, camouflaged by dense vegetation and surrounded by circles of armed guards belonging to the SS, the Führer's most fanatical troops. By 1944, Hitler spent most of his time there, coordinating with his generals the campaign against Joseph Stalin's troops. But although they were fully prepared to defend themselves from external attacks, they were unable to cope with internal enemies. On July 20th, 1944, a group of German officers attempted to assassinate the Führer during one of his military meetings at the Wolf's Lair. Although he only ended up with minor injuries, he left the barracks just a few months later, never to return. The rest of the German leaders soon followed suit, destroying the place before retreating to hide any kind of documents from the nearby Red Army. After World War II, the Wolf's Lair became a historical site. Hundreds of people continually traveled to the area to investigate its underground passages, looking to unearth any kind of secret that may be hidden within its walls. So it was that in 2024, a group of amateur archaeologists made a macabre discovery.
Po około 2 godzinach pracy na kolanach, przesiewając wręcz piasek, sprawdzając całą infrastrukturę tą podziemną, kolega trafił niestety na czaszkę. Zawołał mnie do wykopu i mówi, że znajduje się prawdopodobnie czaszka. Ja potwierdziłem oczywiście, że mamy do czynienia ze szczątkami ludzkimi.
5 skeletons were found in the room where Hermann Göring, one of the Reich's top commanders, were kept. They were 2 adults, a teenager, and a baby. All of them had no hands or feet. There was also no trace of clothing or personal belongings. Did these people suffer Nazi brutality firsthand? The matter remains shrouded in mystery, although their deaths are believed to have occurred before the rise of the Führer, dating back to the interwar period. However, due to the age of the remains, it is difficult to determine the cause of their deaths. The skeletons did not appear to have been buried in a funeral procedure. So who were these people? What caused their end? Why were their limbs missing? Were they victims of the turbulent history of the region during the first half of the 20th century? Sadly, this mysterious case may never be fully known. During its years of terror, the Nazi regime was responsible for numerous robberies within the conquered territories. One of them was the Amber Room in Russia. This was a room in the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg, filled with panels made of the same material, as well as gold objects, jewels, and other items of great value. When the region was taken by the Germans, the aforementioned Hermann Göring ordered the entire room to be looted in order to take its riches to the heart of the Reich. But the train carrying these valuable objects never reached its destination.
What we definitely know about the Amber Room is that the Germans captured the Amber Room in the outskirts of Leningrad in 1941. They brought the Amber Room to Königsberg, and there in late 44, autumn 44, it disappeared. So we know that in August 1944 there was a heavy air raid on Königsberg by the Royal Air Force. And there's rumor that it was destroyed, the Amber Room, in this specific attack. Others said no, it was safe, it was not in the castle anymore, and it was evacuated to western parts of the Reich.
The locomotive disappeared without a trace. Many believe this was intentional on the part of the Nazis. Near the end of the war, the Germans scattered all their loot across Europe to prevent its recovery. But it is also believed that it could have been destroyed in one of the frequent bombings that this region suffered. For decades, the fate of the gold train remained shrouded in mystery, despite numerous attempts to find its whereabouts. However, in 2021, a treasure hunter named Piotr Koper announced that he had found the sought-after vehicle. Its location? The bottom of a lake. Thanks to powerful radar, Koper's team was able to find signs of large amounts of steel in the depths of a lake in Poland. After using underwater drones and divers, they found samples of a furnace that could have been the model used in the locomotive. Unfortunately, almost all of the find was beneath the lake sediment. Despite the incredible potential of this discovery, Koper has still not secured the necessary funding to unearth whatever is there. However, although many detractors maintain that it is impossible for the Amber Room to be there, attempts to bring this discovery to light continue. During the first years of the war, one of Adolf Hitler's greatest advantages was his fleet of submarines. Known as U-boats, they were far more advanced than the models used by the Allies, and they boasted greatly of this superiority. The Wolf Packs, as the groups of submarines were called, sank millions of tons of equipment, weapons, and men during the conflict. But they also became the graves of hundreds of thousands of German sailors. Because they operated underwater, a large number of these vehicles disappeared without a trace after clashes with enemy ships. While it is true that most were simply destroyed by mines or depth charges, some people imagined a different fate. It has been suggested that these missing U-boats had actually managed to escape when it became clear that Germany was going to lose the war, taking with them vast amounts of stolen wealth. This was believed, for example, about the U-455. On April 5, 1944, while sailing off the coast of Italy, the submarine gave its last sign of life before disappearing completely from the map. For decades, attempts were made to find its whereabouts until it was finally found in 2005. Its discovery debunked the escape theory. The most widely held hypothesis is that the captain was forced to sail blindly along the coast of Italy without knowing the location of the enemy or their defenses. This led to him hitting a mine, which caused him to sink.
The boat is pointing upwards at a 45-degree angle. This means that there was still some air in the front, at least initially. The idea is a gruesome one because even if there was air remaining in this part of the boat, the crew had virtually no chance of survival due to the steepness of the slope. Imagine that inside the boat people could barely move around under normal circumstances. In this position, it would be like climbing to the top of a mountain. There must have been panic and confusion. Escape would have been impossible, assuming there were even any survivors left on board.
While it may seem like a less spectacular story than the alleged leak, its discovery is of great importance to World War II researchers. The mysterious fate of this submarine was finally solved. The people responsible for the find even managed to track down the whereabouts of former German sailors who served on the U-455, who gave their account of what their life was like underwater. On February 16, 1941, the British cargo ship SS Gairsoppa was sailing west of the Irish coast. It had 85 crew members and a very valuable cargo. It was carrying 200 tons of silver bullion, valued at approximately 150 million euros, for use in the war. Unfortunately, the ship never reached its destination. A submarine managed to spot the ship and fire torpedoes at it. Of the 4 it launched, only 1 hit its target, but that was enough. After 20 minutes, the Gairsoppa sank to the bottom of the sea. Only 1 crew member managed to escape. The rest, on lifeboats, were never seen again. Its cargo was also lost, until in 2011, American treasure hunters managed to identify the wreck of the British ship. Efforts quickly began to salvage the valuable cargo it was carrying at the time of its destruction.
We're extremely excited about this find. I mean, it's massive for us in so many different ways. You know, the deepest ever, it's potentially the richest ever, and the technological challenges that we have ahead of us are something we can really sink our teeth into.
Incredibly, even though it had been 7 decades since it sank, the Gairsoppa's cargo was in excellent condition. This was mainly due to the depth at which it was found, almost 5 kilometers. 717 letters were recovered, the contents of which could still be read. But the treasure hunters were most interested in the silver bullion. 3 years after the remains were identified, 110 tons of this material were extracted from the bottom of the sea and brought to the surface. 80% of the riches were kept by those responsible for organizing the rescue. The remaining 20% went to the British Treasury, which converted the bullion into approximately 20,000 coins suitable for circulation. Never before had such a valuable cargo been salvaged at such a depth as that of the SS Gairsoppa. Treasure hunts dating back to the Second World War are not only carried out at sea. On land, there are also valuable secrets hidden away waiting to be found. In the territory of the former Soviet Union, to this day, hundreds of people search mudflats and lakes for the remains of vehicles, both belonging to the invaders and the locals. Steel and other materials from tanks and trucks can be sold at a very good price, and there are always people willing to buy them. Most treasure hunters prefer to concentrate on battleships such as Panzers and T-34s. It was during the search for one of these vehicles that, in the Russian city of Novgorod, another equally valuable find was made. It was a German half-track known as the SDKFZ-8. This machine was mainly used to move heavy artillery guns and could carry more than 14 tons of cargo. It was also frequently used to transport troops into the heat of battle. Perhaps it was in one of the savage battles on the Eastern Front that the half-track ended up at the bottom of the Volkhov River, its final resting place. Despite having sunk in the winter of 1941 to 1942, the vehicle remained in excellent condition. Treasure hunters were even able to determine which unit it belonged to.
Вторая рота 1-го батальона 10-го танкового полка германской армии. 10-й танковый полк входил в 8-ю танковую дивизию, которая в октябре 1941 года наступала на Малую Вишеру через Селищи. Тогда Селищинский поселок назывался.
It is believed that the half-track tried to cross the river while it was frozen, but the weight of the tractor made the ground unbearable. On the other hand, no human remains were found along with the machine. The crew may have survived, or may still be there, like so many other discoveries yet to be made. We have reached the end of the video and we want to ask you, which of these discoveries was the most shocking to you? Leave us your answer in the comments box below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to learn about many more military events that left their mark on history.